Hey, Alec. Today we're going to talk about an actor with the last name Fox.
Jamie Foxx,
No.
Megan Fox, Vivica A.
No.
Fox. Oh, I know,
Close.
Red Fox.
Close.
No. George Clooney, who played the fantastic Mr. Fox.
Close.
Well, who is it?
Michael J. Fox.
This is heavy.
We're a couple of guys who like to watch movies, cinema nerds who made it our duty to make a show where we break down, discuss, and review. We're the men who watch movies.
All right. Michael J. Fox. So, I mean, what did you think about that documentary?
Oh, it was awesome. It was terrific, the documentary and they took the clips from the Johnny Carson show and, just made it, very, very real and very, very good. And it's sad that, Michael J. Fox is struggling with Parkinson's, but we wish you well, good sir, and we hope
Definitely.
you have a speedy recovery.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest part about watching this. I read an interview with the director. He's the one who did An Inconvenient Truth with Al Gore. Apparently, Michael J. Fox had one stipulation. He's like, I don't want any violins. Like he just said, like he didn't want to make it like a sob story about how, woe was me, I'm dealing with Parkinson's. But so it must have like a lighthearted, ness to it. Just kind of bringing the facts of what he has to deal with. But it was very hard to watch. Being a huge fan of Michael J. Fox, it was tough to see him like that. But I think it was very matter of fact. I think he just brought his perspective to it and how he's keeping on. I think that's inspiring.
That is wonderful and inspiring. We hope he feels better. Was it after Spin City or was it after Back to the Future that he got Parkinson's?
I think it was like right after Back to the Future 3, I believe, because it was in 1990 when he was diagnosed. So as long as I've been alive, he's been dealing with this. But he didn't come out with it until later. He was afraid that people, would judge him for it. And he didn't want to admit to himself that he was dealing with it. He actually became an alcoholic, remember, in the movie. He was struggling with that, so he started drinking and kind of trying to convince himself, that he was, it wasn't an issue. And
Isn't alcoholism a part of Parkinson's, or is
no, it's
a small
not
part?
like a direct. He was just using alcoholism to deal with the fact, that he had Parkinson's, because it's tough to go through something like that, as we saw in the film. So he just started drinking to kind of soothe himself, I guess. But he eventually became sober, and he's still sober to this day. But yeah, I think it was cool just seeing, it was, we saw him modern day, dealing with what he has to deal with, but then it was intercut, kind of with, the beginning of his career, throughout today. So it was really neat. I think the method of it too, not only did they use recreations, they refilmed some reenactments of him, on set at Back to the Future and other movies and whatnot, and throughout his childhood. But they also intercut it with like clips from his various movies. What did you think about that? I think that was interesting how they did that.
That was fantastic.
I remember seeing that trailer. It really got me excited. Like seeing, and it was so fast paced and cut when they show clips of, just the behind, right behind, not his behind, but they showed, right behind Michael J. Fox as he was walking on set. To Back to the Future, and it, obviously it was a recreation. They didn't have footage of that, but they're putting on his famous vest that looked like a life preserver, and they handed him his video camera that he was recording the time travel test with, and he's walking on set. You see the DeLorean roll by, and then all of a sudden the camera cuts to the actual footage of them recording Back to the Future with the film clapper and everything like that, and it was cut so perfectly, and it was exciting, and I don't know, I think it really got me interested in seeing this documentary. Right away, I knew it was something different, and it delivered, definitely. I think they executed it perfectly, would you say?
Oh, very, very, very much they did. It was very, very awesome. And I give this documentary 10 out of 10.
I would agree with you. 10 out of 10. I never give anything 10 out of 10, but it was amazing. I hope it wins awards. I definitely see it winning awards. It was not only was the content of it just amazing, but I feel like the directing, just the whole concept of it. It was just perfection. I think it came together. I recommend it highly. It was just interesting. What is something new that you didn't that you didn't know about Michael J. Fox that you learned from this?
I didn't know that he was too. Was it he was too small for some roles, or what was it? He was
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Like he was like super. He's a really short guy. So he got turned down for a lot of stuff. He almost got turned down, from the role of Alex P. Keaton. Because he was short. They didn't believe that he was tall enough to be the guy who played his dad. They didn't believe he was tall enough to be his son. At first, Gary David Goldberg, he's the creator of the show. He didn't want Michael J. Fox, but then as they did like a reading of the script, and then everyone was just busting up laughing, and then finally he's like, "Hey, where were you keeping this kid from me? He's great." And then he got convinced, and then there was another producer. I can't remember his name right now, but he didn't want Michael J. Fox. Brandon Tartikoff. He didn't want Michael J. Fox as Alex P. Keaton, and he was like, "No, I don't see this kid on lunchboxes. Like, he's not he's not that kind of actor that we would want for one of the lead roles of our show." And then of course, he blew up as Alex Keaton. He actually improvised the middle initial. I didn't know that, but yeah, it was like one of his first scenes. He was on the phone. He's like, "Alex P. Keaton here," and then he apparently improvised the middle initial. So that's funny. Of course, people loved him as the character, and he became he shifted from just like a side character to like the main character of the show. And eventually, Michael J. Fox ended up on lunchboxes, and he sent Tartikoff a lunchbox with his face on it, and he signed it for him and everything. I think that's hilarious. But yeah, one thing I learned that I didn't know is just like how much he struggled in the beginning. You don't think about these things. You just think like, oh, he probably got into acting and he hit it off and he became famous. But he was really like broke. Like he started off doing plays at a school and whatnot, and I guess his teacher sent him a newspaper, an ad looking for, I forget for what show it was. It wasn't that medical show, but it was for a different show when he was like super little. And he sent him a role. They were looking for someone who could play younger because he was so short, right? And then so he actually got the role, but he was barely making anything. And then of course he was doing that. What was that show? That doctor show?
Dr. John Trapper, M.D.
That's right. Yeah, he was doing shows like that. Those were like his early roles.
Very early, and of course when I first saw it, I was like, "Who is this actor?" And I'm looking closer, and it's Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, he looks
with
so
those Jerry
different.
Lewis glasses.
Yeah, he looks so different with the glasses and whatnot.
He looks like Jerry Lewis a little bit. kind of, with the glasses.
But yeah, and then he was barely getting paid anything. Like he was, he was living in an apartment in the slums of Beverly Hills, as he put it. And eventually, like he was living off McDonald's, and like he had to sell off his belongings and his furniture. And I think I heard in like an interview he was like dumpster diving and whatnot. I mean, it's just, you don't think about things like that, like like how little he had before he actually hit it off. And even when he got cast as Alex P. Keaton, like I said, they didn't want him in it right away. And so even though he had the potential of making so much money and finally hitting it big, like they were still holding off because they weren't sure, and so he was kind of in limbo. And then finally, kind of everything fell in place after the audience and America saw him as Alex Keaton. And of course, Back to the Future was not far away. I think initially, I'm not sure what other movies that he got. I don't know if he did any other movie. I know he auditioned for a movie with Robert Redford. It was called Ordinary People, and he got turned down. He got turned down for that role, and then eventually got Teen Wolf, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Teen Wolf holds up?
Oh, it does. It definitely holds up. It holds up because Michael J. Fox is the kind of actor who would do anything for a film.
I think it holds up because of Michael J. Fox. But other than that, I think it's definitely not the best movie in terms of movies, but I watch it because it has Michael J. Fox, and let's put it that way, for nothing else. But then he was doing Teen Wolf, and then he was talking about how he was in this B movie budget film, and then he saw that they were filming what we know as Back to the Future now. He knew that Steven Spielberg was attached to it, and he's like, man, I want to get in a movie like that. And one comment that he made, I thought that was hilarious. He was like, oh, I can't believe Crazy Crispin, referring to Crispin Glover, who played his dad in Back to the Future. He's like, I can't believe Crazy Crispin got in a movie produced by Steven Spielberg, and I'm over here doing this B movie with, I'm covered in yak hair. I thought that was hilarious. I laughed at that. But yeah, I didn't know that he filmed Teen Wolf first, so it's interesting.
I
but
had
apparently,
no idea.
he had gotten an offer for Back to the Future, but Gary David Goldberg had kept it from him because they wanted him to stop filming Family Ties in order to shoot Back to the Future. But he's like, no, there's no way I'm doing that. So he kept the script from him, and then finally, after they filmed all the stuff with what's his name, the first guy to play Marty McFly. Eric Stoltz. That's
Eric
right.
Stoltz.
Yeah. After they had shot the stuff with Eric Stoltz and they realized it wasn't working out, they tried, getting Michael J. Fox again. And finally, that's when Gary David Goldberg admitted, hey, I kept this from you. And he's like, if you do this, you're not missing a day of work. So it just, it's crazy. Like you see, I've heard about this before, but like you see all this, the struggle he went through trying to get back and forth to set. He would go like at like super early in the morning to the set of Family Ties, and then he would work all day, and then around like 6 he would have like a guy drive him to the set of Back to the Future, wait until like the early morning, and then he would get like a couple hours of sleep, have someone drive him back to the set of Family Ties. It would just be the circle. It's constantly working. Man, that's like, I don't know how he could do that. He was so tired. Sometimes he said like he didn't know what set he was on. Would you be able to do something like that? I don't know about that. I'm not a morning person, so I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it.
That's tough, man.
It's tough stuff.
Yeah, but he did it. Like, he's a hungry actor. He's going to do what he has to do, man. And he was like, I don't even know if any of this looks good. Like, I'm so tired. I don't even know. But then Back to the Future hit it off, man, and launched him into the stratosphere. I think that's great.
They made 3 movies: Back to the Future 1, Part 2, Part 3.
Initially, it was just supposed to be the first one. The whole ending at the, when the DeLorean flies off, that was just supposed to be like a little joke moment. That wasn't initially setting up a third movie. But of course, Universal, they have a huge mega hit on their hands. They're not going to leave it at one movie. And then, they came to, Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, and they were like, we're going to make one with or without you guys. So if you want to be a part of it, here's your chance. And so normally I noticed that Robert Zemeckis doesn't like doing sequels. Of course, he did Romancing the Stone, which initially convinced the studios to make Back to the Future. And, they made a sequel to Romancing the Stone.
The Jewel of the Nile.
Yeah, and he wasn't part of that. So normally he doesn't like doing sequels, but I think Back to the Future was so special. He's like, I can't not do it. So, and then, of course, Bob Zemeckis returning and Bob Gale returning is what brought the rest of the cast back. So they're like, hey, if Bob and Bob are doing it, we're game, But yeah, it was just initially that first movie, and what a movie it was. It's like one of those movies that's like lightning in a bottle. Like
very, very much.
You can't capture that magic. There's always been talk about reboots, especially nowadays. There's so many reboots, reimaginings, soft reboots, sequels. We got another Indiana Jones movie coming up. We got so many things coming up.
And of course, the other reboot is Matlock with Kathy Bates.
yeah, that's true. But of course, they always bring up like, would you do a Back to the Future 4, or what do you think about a reboot? And they were talking to Michael J. Fox about it, and he's like, I think it's completely unnecessary. There's nothing really new that you can bring to the table, and I completely agree. It's like a lot of people, they're very like political about it. They're like, oh yeah, if someone could do it right, but I think being honest, he's telling the truth here. It's like, especially he's not saying just with Back to the Future. He's like with other movies too. It's like, unless if you can bring something new to the table and say something interesting, like there's no point in doing a reboot or another movie. It's like, and I feel like Back to the Future is wrapped in as neat of a bow as you can, and it doesn't need another movie. It doesn't need a sequel. It doesn't need a reboot. There's nothing new you can really say other than like setting it in modern times, and it's like he would be traveling back to the 90s now, and it's just unnecessary. I think it's a movie that holds up. It doesn't need a reboot. What do you think about that?
But it's a very, very good way of pointing at that. Nowadays we don't need reboots, but it is what it is. Reboots are
Yeah.
movies that are going to be rebooted and tweaked a little for creativity.
Now, I mean, no, all reboots aren't bad. I mean, you have something like, or like remake. They used to be called remakes. Now they're reboots. But all remakes aren't that bad. You have look at like Scarface. That was like a remake of a movie from like the 40s, right, or something like that.
With Paul Mooney.
And so what's interesting about that is that they actually had something new to add to it. They totally changed up the vibe and the setting and the context, and they made something interesting. It's where it's like a whole different movie almost. So I think it's like, that's where a remake has its value. It's when he brings something new to the table, like Michael J. Fox was saying. But other than that, it's like if you're just going to remake the same movie with nothing new to add to it, it's like there's no point. So I agree with him. I'd say that leave Back to the Future alone. And other great movies too. That unless you're going to do something cool with it, don't do it. Kind of like Ghostbusters. Anyway, not to get too off topic here.
Not to get too off topic.
But yeah, Back to the Future launched him into the stratosphere, and it kind of is the movie. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I want people to see it for themselves. But and it goes through the height of his career and how it just like how that kind of changes a person, how his behavior changed because of it, and it goes through more of his personal life at the time and how he met his wife. I think that's great. I didn't know that they met on the set of Family Ties, and there's some amusing moments there about how they met and how their personality differed so much, but that kind of attracted them to each other. As they say, opposites attract and whatnot. She kind of kept him in check. She was no bullshit, and he was like the big man on campus, and so he, where he thinks he's such hot shit now because, he was a big star at the time, and it goes through, a lot of the other movies that they did, his kids being born and his, eventually, the tragic passing of his father, which, really was, had an impact on him, of course. And, it was because he was one of his biggest, proponents. He was very like, from what, he said in the documentary, he was like a very strict father, but then, when it came to time for him to, try and venture off into being an actor, he was there like side by side with him, helping him out. He drove him out to Hollywood. He's like, if you really want to do this, you got to go for it. He's like, I think the term that he said was like, if you're going to be a lumberjack, might as well go where the trees are. So he drove him out to Hollywood, drove him out to all his interviews, encouraging him the whole time. So he was like really like in the thick of it with them, And then, of course, it shows, his moments where he learned that he had Parkinson's and stuff like that. It's a, what a tough thing to go through. But his wife stuck through him, stuck by him the whole time. Very interesting stuff. I mean, it was definitely a wonderful documentary.
Very, very, very awesome documentary. Very, very historically accurate. Very, very different, actually.
Yeah, very creative.
Very creative. Yeah. True events, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That I didn't know about, but it's great that they showed Michael J. Fox on Johnny Carson back then. It was so fantastic the way they showed it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And they showed Family Ties clips. They showed, I think, Back to the Future clips. But, it was a really, really good documentary.
Doc Hollywood. What is your someone, like, aside from Back to the Future? And we can go about Back to the Future for days. And eventually I want to do just a video all about the trilogy, but what are some of your other favorite Michael J. Fox movies?
Doc Hollywood and Life with Mikey.
Those are good. The Doc Hollywood, I've seen it like once, but I remember liking it. But what was that about again?
Life with Mikey?
No, Doc Hollywood.
Oh, Doc Hollywood. That's one where
like he's like a big shot doctor, right?
Yeah, the big shot doctor is driving, and he actually crashes into a farmer's fence, which actually turns out to be the judge. So he gets sentenced to like community service to something. I don't want to give out the spoilers, but
Spoilers. I'm not too worried about spoilers, but like I think it was like he was supposed to start like a big like a big shot job in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Being like a plastic surgeon.
but of course he in Grady, in the great
Yeah.
city of Grady,
Yeah, they ends up in a small town, so it's like a fish out of water
of course,
story.
the great late David Ogden Stiers, who plays the mayor or the well, I forget what his character's name is, but he dresses up like a squash. So that makes his
I have to
character
rewatch
more
that.
colorful
I don't
and
remember
awesome.
too much about it, but I know it was good. But yeah, you also mentioned Life with Mikey. That was hilarious. Of course, you have the great Nathan Lane playing his brother. They're like they work at like a talent agency for kids, right? And Michael J. Fox's character, he was like a child actor, and then it was like I think it was like a sitcom in the 70s, but it almost reminded me of like a Leave It to Beaver style, like family comedy,
Very, very much.
where he was like the main character, Mikey the kid, and they run this child agency that's like a talent agency that's going under. They're like hard up to try and find like kids with any talent. They have like this roster, but there's only one that's like semi-talented, and he's like a big asshole essentially, played by David Krumholtz. He's been in a bunch of other stuff like Numbers and whatnot, but and he was in the Santa Claus. He played I think the head elf or something like that. But he played a good jerk in that movie, and eventually Michael J. Fox's character runs into this girl like stealing people's wallets on the street, and she tries to do this big sob story when he confronts her and realizes that she's a good actress, and but she has like this troubled home life and whatnot. She's trying to run away, and she makes up a story about her dad being dead and whatnot. And I don't know, it's just, I think it's a good story. It's a wonderful story. Definitely, I would recommend that one to watch. It's fun. It's nothing like groundbreaking or anything, but it's a fun story to watch. It's
funny,
family friendly.
It's family friendly.
It's great.
There are references to Batman and Batman Returns.
Oh, that's right. what, I vaguely remember that. What do they reference in that?
One of the kids has like the Batman toys from Batman '89 and Batman Returns. Or
Sounds familiar.
I think he likes the '89 Batman better than Batman Returns,
I guess so.
which makes sense.
And then, I remember watching it, and there was the actor from The Big Lebowski in it. He played the head of the cookie company that the girl was auditioning for. She was trying to do a commercial for that company, and the guy who was the head of the company, he played Mr. Lebowski, the rich shyster dude from
That was
The Big
him?
Lebowski. Yeah, that was him in that. He looked exactly the same. He's one of those actors. I think he's one of those like, it's that guy, But yeah, I think that was funny. But not to get too off topic here. Teen Wolf is another one that I love watching. Like I mentioned earlier, definitely not a. I think without Michael J. Fox, I don't think it would have been remembered as much as it is today. And of course, they did like a reboot in the fashion of like a teen drama show. But I don't know. What do you think about Teen Wolf?
It's a very, very underrated movie, but with Michael J. Fox, it is awesome and incredibly
Like I said, he makes the
well
movie.
done.
It's definitely very dated. I mean, even at the time, there was an interview in the Michael J. Fox documentary where Back to the Future had just came out. It was a huge hit. They were interviewing him on some talk show. It was like some morning show or something. And then they're like, and then there's another Michael J. Fox movie coming out. Do you think it's going to give it a run for its money? They were talking about Teen Wolf. And he's like, yeah, I don't know about that. He didn't want to badmouth the movie that's coming out. But like you could tell he was like, no, it's definitely not as good. Even when he was on the set, he was like, man, I wish I was on the other set on the bigger picture, But, I mean, it's fun. I mean, it has like... I got to say, though, the music is very underwhelming. The score is awful. It's like the synthesizer score. I mean, that's one thing. Like, I know Back to the Future is a way bigger budget movie, but I mean, the score is just perfection.
Had a lot of gravitas, a lot of high octane music.
I mean, that's one thing that they really wanted. They wanted that old Hollywood type score, and that makes some of the smaller scenes seem larger than life, you know. And with this movie, it literally starts out with no music. It shows the title sequence and whatnot. And throughout the whole movie, like I said, it's like that bland 80s synth music, and they have some of the most awful like soundtrack ever, like unmemorable music. I know it's probably lower budget and whatnot, but you could be creative, guys. Come on. And I don't know, it's just typical 80s party movie with a wolf in it. I mean, the overall story is good. It's basically about, you know, where he learns that he has like these wolf powers inherited from his family. His dad is also a werewolf, and he has to learn how to, you know, not let, you know, those abilities change who he is as a person, basically. And then the dad in the movie, he says, "With great power comes great responsibility." I thought that was interesting. He's given like the Uncle Ben talk. I thought that pretty much sums up the whole movie, though. It's essentially, you know, he's part of a basketball team that sucks, and he's unpopular. He wants to date this popular girl. There's a girl that he's friends with, that likes him, but he's like kind of interested in her, and he wants the popular girl and whatnot. And he wants to be the great basketball player. He wants to be, you know, socially popular and all that stuff. But, you know, it's just not in the cards for him. He wants to get out of his small town, and he doesn't want to work at his father's. He works at like some like kind of like hardware store, right? And you know, he just wants more. And then eventually he learns that he's a werewolf with all these abilities. He starts using that to gain popularity, and it starts changing him, making him a jerk. Almost kind of like not unlike Michael J. Fox's rise to celebrity, you know.
Very,
kind
very
of
much.
changed him, and then eventually.
Teen Wolf is awesome. I highly recommend it. Watch it on whatever streaming service they have. I give this movie a 10 out of 10.
Teen Wolf, a 10 out of 10. No.
Yeah.
No. I would give it a 6 out of 10. All the points go to Michael J. Fox. Like I said, he makes the movie. Without him in it, it would have been lost to the history.
Oh, yeah. He is a legendary thespian of an actor.
Yeah, he made that movie. He was way better of an actor than that movie deserved. But anywho, I mean, it was, like I said, it's fun. If you just put it on, just to watch. It has the guy who played Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure in it.
Oh yeah, I saw
He's
it.
like the typical fat dude in the movie. He has like liverwurst in his locker and shit. And yeah, I mean, it's a good little story. Like, don't let not to change who you are, and to kind of humble yourself. And yeah, I mean, basically the movie ends with him. He basically starts becoming more aggressive and whatnot. His father warned him because I guess the person who's the vice principal was like kind of bullying him and his now wife back in the day, and then he scared him so much that he pissed himself or something like that. And so he was warning Michael J. Fox, say, hey, don't become something that that you don't want to become. He's like, I know I scared that guy that day, but also it scared me more because like I don't know who I was becoming. So you better be careful who you become. Kind of like Uncle Ben was saying, this is the time where you change into the man you're going to change into for the rest of your life. Just be careful who you turn into. So that's like the moral of the story here. And eventually he decides that, you know what, I'm not going to compromise who I am on the inside. I'm going to not appear as the wolf because, eventually with his wolf powers, they became great at basketball. The team was winning all the time, but it was just, him doing all the work. And, at their big final game, he decided not to show up as the wolf and play as himself. And he won anyway because he learned that, all his abilities didn't come from the wolf. It came from him, and, it was, like I said, the underlying story is great. It wasn't executed that well. Although one thing I thought that was funny was when they would surf on the cars. Although I wonder if anyone tried to emulate it. That's so dangerous.
Very, very much.
I feel like if they showed something like that in a movie nowadays, people would be pissed because then the kids would want to try and emulate shit like that. They're always doing like stupid TikTok challenges and dying because of it. I can imagine someone trying to car surf for real. They were doing like backflips and shit on the cars as going full speed down the street. But yeah. I believe this brings an end to this episode of The Men Who Watch Movies. Like I said, we fully enjoyed the Michael J. Fox documentary. It's called Still. You can check it out on Apple TV Plus. I highly recommend it. Get that subscription if you don't have it. This isn't sponsored by Apple TV Plus by any means. I did not want to get Apple TV Plus, but I saw this. I saw the documentary trailer, and I was blown away by just the trailer alone, and so I had to check it out. I'm a big fan of Michael J. Fox. So, if you can get like a trial where you don't have to pay for it, and just watch it, and if you want, ditch it. But it's a great documentary. I'd recommend it. It's I definitely hope it wins awards and whatnot. Well, I had fun talking about Michael J. Fox.
Very much.
And next week we'll hopefully bring you some other great stuff. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but we'll have something great for you guys. My name is Alec.
And my name's DJ the Movie Man Wagner, also known as the COE of the Men Who Watch Movies. And we encourage you to click that link down below.
Subscribe, please.
For more content.
We got a couple more subscribers, so thank you. We went from 19
We hope this video
to 21.
goes viral.
Thank you for subscribing. I hope you enjoy what we got going on. If you have any opinions of what you want to see, if we think
Give us a Q&A.
we're doing something wrong, write it down in the comments below.
Give us a Q&A.
Tell us in the comments your favorite Michael J. Fox movie.
Yep. Tell us your favorite movie. And of course,
oh my God.
my podcast has
I totally forgot to talk about
a whole bunch of stuff about Seinfeld and other sorts of movies, like, Ray Stevenson movies. But
I totally forgot to talk about The Frighteners. But maybe we'll save that for Halloween. I don't think we talked about that yet.
The Frighteners is a very, very awesome movie with a very, very talented cast.
Michael J. Fox is great in The Frighteners, but let's save it for Halloween. I don't want to talk about that quite yet, but I do love that movie. Like I said, it's been great. Subscribe. Also check out his channel. It's called Movie Man Behind the Scenes. We'll put a link for that on the end screen, so you can check that out. Yes, and we hope you join us next time. And remember to
keep on watching.
Thank you, everybody.